Live in 3, 2, go.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Spiritual Matters Thursday. I am your host, Dr. Monikah Ogando, and I have come with a very rare occurrence for Halloween. This week is Halloween. Instead of a quote, I have a joke. Sorrel?
We're scared.
You should be. This is spooky. I have a question for you, Sorrel. What do you get if you cross a sorceress with a billionaire?
That's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be a very witch person?
How did you know that? Roll the credits.
How did you know that?
It's still horrible.
Like I said, it was unfair. It was unfair.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
If you are in the East or the West Coast of the domestic United States, it is good morning for you. If you're in Europe, good afternoon. If you're in Africa, good evening, darling. And so we just want to say thank you for being here, for taking time out of your day to join us for the Daily Huddle. Thursdays, as you know, is our Spiritual Matters Day. And today we're talking about Halloween and its origins and how you can use some of those lessons in your own life. You may already be using some of those lessons in your own life. We're going to get into that in just a minute. So before we do that, let's ground ourselves in the now moment. And I'm going to ask Stan, where are you and what are you thankful for?
Hey, Doc, I am, I'm right here. The only place that I can be, the only place I want to be. And I'm grateful for having an amazing Daily Huddle family to connect with. It's a blessing. I'm grateful for it.
Ashe. Thank you for that.
Ashe.
Giovanni, how are you? And who are you going to hug today?
How I am the way I say I am. And today I say I am focused. That's a breakthrough. And today I'm going to hug Maya. I'm going to hug Maya today.
Oh, yay. I like that name. That's such a pretty name. So thank you again, everybody, for being here. What do you know about Halloween except candy and trick or treat? Do you know any of the history of it? Do you know any of the background, the culture of it, et cetera, et cetera? Say yes in the chat if you know. Say no in the chat if you don't know. Let's start the conversation immediately, so that we can get really, really juicy engagement here. Now, let me just say this. Oh, Chase says no. Okay, great. All right, good. This is going to be educational for all of us. So one of the things that shocked me when I first came to this country was, I came to this country when I was 10 years old from the Dominican Republic. We do not celebrate Halloween in the Dominican Republic. However, we do celebrate All Saints Day. And it's a little more, sacred than commercial. So when it got to all the cookies and all the trick-or-treating and the offensive costumes and things like that, I was like, oh, this ain't it. So I got really curious about the history behind it, the history behind Halloween. It just so happens, Halloween is a holiday that's, of course, as we all know, is celebrated every year on October 31st. The tradition actually originated with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. And this is when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. Now, why would you ward off ghosts? And why would you light bonfires? Well, it just so happens that, as you can imagine now, by the time that we get to the end of October, the beginning of November, the sun has already started to go down sooner and sooner and sooner during the day, to the point where it culminates in the winter solstice being the shortest day of the year, right? And so the more dark that we have, the more ghoulish stories that we tell about the dark, and in many cultures. And so we would light bonfires, and so that we can ward off whatever fearful things we think the darkness abides, right? And in the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor all saints. And so it incorporated some of the traditions of Samhain. And the evening before was known as All Hallows Eve, which later on became Halloween. And so over time, Halloween evolved into a day of activities like trick-or-treating. And trick-or-treating, this is so good. You know, I nerd out when I learn about these things, the historical, you know, background of modern traditions, right? So trick-or-treating actually started because orphans and homeless families would go from place to place, gathering whatever extra stuff you had from the harvest, whatever fruits, whatever vegetables you had from the harvest, so that they can go and like huddle up in a cave and be able to at least make it through the winter. So it wasn't trick-or-treating like that. It was trick-or-treating like collecting candy. It was like, give me some sustenance, or you're gonna miss out on your blessing, on your karma, because you're supposed to take care of people who are less fortunate than you. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that fascinating? And then there's carving of jack-o'-lanterns and festive gatherings and donning costumes and eating treats and so forth. And that just became more of the celebratory aspect that we have, because, tell me if you think this is true, in the modern culture, we have a really hard time dealing with death, dealing with the other world, spiritual world, and honoring our ancestors, honoring the dead. We would just as soon forget about them and let them not come back, and ghosts are a bad thing and so forth, instead of ancestors trying to give us some knowledge. And so it became like this scary thing. And that's when you have like the horror movies and so forth. Because we, as a culture collectively, we have a hard time just facing demons, facing the darkness, facing our shadows, facing you know, the other realm, as it were. So there's all this lore around Halloween. And so we try to sweeten it, quite literally, put some sugar on it by adding the treats, the candies, and so forth. So one of the things that sticks out to me about the evolution of Halloween is that it evolved from honoring the dead to making fun of the dead, making them ghosts and ghouls and monsters, and to then sweetening the conversation so that it's not even about the dead. It's about costumes, it's about candy, and it's about all of that other stuff. And it makes me wonder, what are the places, what are the areas, the domains of my life, and this is a question that I extend to you, what are the domains of your life, where you'd rather not look, because you don't like your results, because you don't like the implications, because it's scary, because you haven't fully integrated it, because you don't know much about it, you don't know how to deal, you don't have words around it. For some people, they have that kind of relationship with vulnerability. They're like, vulnerability, psh, ah. The most you're gonna get is a sniffle out of a sad movie or something, but they don't do vulnerability like that. For some people, it may be apologizing when they've done something to sacrifice their a relationship, to diminish the intimacy, the connection, or the trust in a relationship. They don't do apologies well. For other people, it might be the vulnerability aspect of it might be, I don't let myself need help or ask for help, because asking for help implies weakness, or needing help implies incompetence. And so I don't ask, and I don't admit when I need it. And so I wanna give you some space to kind of contemplate this, of where are the domains or the spaces or the relationships where you have a hard time facing it, where you have a hard time owning it. Now, you may not need to say anything here. If you can, if you want to, of course, I'm going to always create space for us to dialogue, but it's a good place to start when we see how we do traditions collectively and then bring the macro into the micro to how this applies in your life specifically and how you do it. Because one of the things that I have learned is that whatever we do collectively, culturally, typically we have some form of doing that in our own lives. To give you an example, in my own life, one of the things that I tend to shy away from, withdraw or avoid, things like that, is if I know that I'm supposed to do something and I haven't done it, I don't want to talk about it. Just let's talk about it when I've handled it. And then we can debrief and apologize and hug it out and blah, blah, blah. But let's not, I don't want my face rubbed in it until I've handled what I know I need to handle, because I haven't handled it yet. There's nothing to talk about. But that doesn't work for some relationships, right? For some relationships, like, I need you to tell me what's going on. I don't care that you haven't handled it. Just tell me what's happening. And then I can wait, and then I can make room, or then I can be patient, or then I can, but not knowing is horrible. It's terrifying. It makes me not trust you. It makes me not believe you when you say you're going to handle something or whatever, right? So that's one of the things that I've had to confront in my own life. That's like, oh my God, that's not a good habit to have. You might want to correct that one. And so that's the question that I'm asking you, is what are some of the things in your own life that you're like, this is a ghost of Christmas past, or this is a ghost of another life when I used to have this habit, or when I used to do this thing, or when I used to have this idea about myself that sometimes rears its ugly head every now and again. And Halloween is an opportunity to integrate, to bring into the dark, or bring the dark into the light. This is what the idea is about lighting up all those candles and lighting up the streets and so forth. I do have a quote. See, I started with a cheesy joke, but of course I'm going to have to put a quote in there. And the quote is from Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas, which is not in the canonical Bible. But he is quoted as saying, I don't know if he said it, but he's quoted as saying, if you bring forth that which is within you, in other words, when you make the unconscious conscious, if you bring forth that which is within you, that which is within you will save you. If you do not bring forth that which is within you, in other words, if you do not make the unconscious conscious, then that which is within you will destroy you. Isn't that powerful? Boom, right? Giovanni just did the mic drop. So then Carl Jung, many centuries later, says, kind of paraphrases that quote and says, if you do not make the unconscious conscious, it'll rule your life and you will call it fate. That's from Carl Jung. And so what I'm inviting you to do, you can start here as much as you're comfortable, and then take it up with your journal, take it up with your quiet time and your meditation and so forth. But what I'm inviting you to do is, what are the unconscious parts that are rearing their head into your consciousness that you have yet to integrate, that you don't quite know what to do with, that feels like ghosts or monsters or ghouls or, stuff that you're like, this would be so much better if it was just a horror movie I could turn off instead of part of my life that I don't want to face. So what are some of those pieces? I gave you an example of my life, and I'm going to open it up so we can talk about the places where we have a hard time integrating. Confession time, everybody. Let's go. Who has something? Sorrel, the brave one.
So this one, I would be the first one to say, I love my friends, I love my family members, I love people, and I love it when they succeed. Mm-hmm. But the little piece of darkness I've never brought forth is this. When somebody close to me succeeds wildly, even though I'm happy for them, there's this tinge of jealousy. Like somehow maybe I wasn't included in the success, or somehow the success is so big that I'm happy for them, but there's that, right? So it's Halloween, so I'm playing the game with you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
There's that there, right? And I don't know what it is. Giovanni loves to say, I don't know what things are for. No, you started that.
Course in Miracles.
Right. And I don't know what it is for. And I'm bringing it forth right now to play the game.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, because a lot of times what we do with our dark emotions is shove them or ignore them or put them somewhere in the attic or the basement. But when we bring them forth, it turns out they're just really teachers that forgot to look good for us.
Yeah.
And so we sometimes ignore them because they don't look good or they don't feel good or whatever. So thank you for bringing that up. And how many of us can relate? Put a yes in the chat, or if you're on video, let me see your hands. Put a yes in the chat so that I can see how many of you can relate. Some of you are like, I like it, but I'm hating a little bit. You know, I wish it was me. Yes, we got some yeses in the chat. Thank you for that, Sorel. Giovanni, you have your hand up too.
Yeah, this is a great game. I like this game. So I want to do two things. I want to put together everything I heard in 30 seconds, and then I'm going to look into the dark.
Okay, go for it.
So what I heard you were saying was that a way of looking at Halloween, or the way Halloween is constructed from many years ago, was in this context of bringing, if you don't mind putting it together for me, it's in this context of bringing the darkest night, the darkest moment, the darkest day, the shortest day of the year, which is mostly dark. A celebration of, I missed something and I wanted you to say it again.
Well, the shortest day of the year is the winter solstice. And November is around the time, it's halfway point between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. And so the sun is already going down, and we already have a less sunlight and more darkness. And so All Saints Day was a way of kind of piercing the veil and honoring the darkness and honoring those that have transpired, that have gone to another world, and integrating the life with the live with the dead.
And we celebrate it with the masks and the monsters and all of that. Love it. Thank you for bringing that part of history to this conversation. Then I love something you said, or Jesus said, and then Carl said it later. I'm going to say it in my words. Absent of bringing the unconscious to the conscious, it will rule my life, or it would destroy my life. It could do that. I thought that was beautiful. And then we're going to look into the dark. I think that some of it, what Sorel was pointing to, definitely resonates with me in the context of only recently, as not as much actually, to confess, but it was in the context of why can't I be better myself? Like for many years I thought I was witched, like somebody put a spell on me. Yeah, they put a spell on me, and it was the not so smart spell. You'll never be. Yeah. So I would give up.
Well, we broke that spell. As soon as you came over here with the Daily Huddle, all of a sudden we discovered what a genius you are.
Yeah, so I would constantly give up on things that were hard, because I'm not that smart anyway, so might as well give up. Why keep looking a little longer? And I've sort of managed to pierce through, but I think it's still there. Another one is in the dark. I think it's along the lines of the same. I think it would say, if I give up quickly, then I never have to say to myself, well, I never really gave it my all.
Mm-hmm.
You can't call me out.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't give my all.
That's right. I didn't fail. I quit.
Exactly.
You didn't fire me.
So I quit sooner than what could be possible. So that's one. I guess that's one for me.
That is, thank you so much for bringing that up. Because listen, here's the thing. What I find so fascinating is that we sometimes hold on to these like dark things about our lives. Like, oh my God, I'm the only mistake in God's documented history. People knew what an asshole I was. They would never. And then when you come to find out, when you bring it to the light, it's like, oh, I feel that way. And then it's like 100 people pop up and they're like, yeah, I feel that way. It's like, oh, it's not my little secret. It's like, welcome to the human condition. So thank you for bringing that up, Giovanni. I love that.
I love this game. I want to play this game more.
Yeah, right? It's awesome. My Scorpio moon is very gratified. Scorpios love delving into the deep and the dark. Cece, you got something?
Yeah, thanks. I got in late on the conversation, but I did do a little research about Halloween and how it is the evening before Christian holy days as All Hallows Day. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. It's November 1st and November 2nd. Mm-hmm. So one of my darkest secrets is I do get envious of people who get blessings, big blessings before I do. And I'd be like, why I gotta wait so long? But I know it's just a process. And so that's my deep, dark secret that I'm like having the conversation in my brain. Okay.
That's right. I love that.
I pass.
Yeah, Cece, listen. Nobody has a better timeline for our lives than ourselves, right? Like we know when things are supposed to happen, and why does the universe have any other say other than what I say goes in my life? So I appreciate you saying that. The way that here's a little secret. Here's a little secret that I have had to come to understand and accept. The way you know that there are some things that you're not ready for is that they're not happening. The way you know that there's somebody's life that isn't for you is because you're not living that life. I am not ready to live Beyonce's life as much as I want to. Not ready for Beyonce's life. Don't have the bandwidth for it. And she ain't ready for mine. Because she doesn't have it, right? And so it's a little bit of a conundrum. It's a little bit of a paradox. Or maybe not a paradox. That's not the right word. It's like the only solution you got, sometimes you don't want it. So like the only person that is equipped to live Sorrel's Katan's life is Sorrel. As much as, and the only person equipped to handle Monikah Ogando's life is Monikah Ogando. As much as sometimes you're like, we ought to fire her. She's not handling her job very well. But you can't. You're tenured. That's the only job you have, is to live your life the best of your ability. Only job. And when you're done with that job, then you're done with that job, literally. And so I want to open up the space again. If anybody else has another deep, dark secret that you want to confess. Oh, Ronald, listen, when I opened up the thing, Ronald was over there with his little teacup like, this is about to be some hot piping tea in this conversation. So I'm ready to hear what you got to say.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I like Gio's kind of recreating you very well. And now that I really get the entire conversation, it's gonna really bring into light a couple of things. And what I'm really looking at is the word ambition, where a lot of those secrets, a lot of those dark secrets that we have, or for me, is this ambition. Then sometimes you're looking at it, I'm looking at it, it's like, is it too hard for me to reach, or is it too is it like far-fetched kind of things to start? So those dark secret almost become somewhat ambition that never get started, or that's not rich. I don't know if I'm looking too deep into it, but for the fact of saying, okay, somebody get somewhere and I should have got there before, or I should have get my blessing, like this before. It's like, okay, yeah, I could see the word jealousy in there, but yet it is your own ambition. And should you make the step to get there, or is it doesn't meant for you to have? So that's the way I look at my dark secret. It's like, yeah, that's something that I should be getting, but I'm not doing the effort to it. And just like Gio said, I didn't do the effort, therefore I'm not, don't even cast me on that. But I have learned very early not to leave stone unturned. That's one thing about me, is like, okay, if something is still bothering me, that like I should have done something, I should do something, and this part of me would wake up one day and say, you know what, I don't want to leave this stone unturned. Let me just go ahead and turn it over to see what's underneath it. Why am I so driven to do this, as opposed to stay in my lane and not doing what I'm called to do? So I guess that's the dark secret that I wrestled, in a lot, and I'll bring it forward, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But the thing that I love about what you're saying is it comes down to, one of my favorite things to say, which is check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? I'm always asking myself and everybody that I love to check your assumptions. Like, follow the argument down the rabbit hole and see where it leads you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we can take that with all of our dark emotions. I'm jealous of so-and-so's success. Well, what is it about that success that bothers me? It bothers me that they got, to Cece's point, it bothers me that they got it before I did. I should have gotten there by now. Okay, what makes you think that you should have gotten there by now? Because I have more talent and I have more da-da-da. So what do you think could have possibly stayed away this success that you think you're so entitled to? Well, I didn't do the work that I was supposed to do, like you said, Ron. Or I didn't foster these kinds of connections, or I didn't attend that conference, or I didn't have this money discipline, or I didn't have blah, 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 blah. And so when we can follow the assumption down as far as it can lead us, we will get to the teachable moment. But we do have to be patient enough with ourselves to sit with it, to contemplate it, and be gracious enough and powerful enough to be able to confront the truth, no matter how ugly it may seem at first, because it looks ugly first. This is the part about the shadow and the dark, is that, in the dark, you can't really see things for what they are. You have to bring them to the light. But darkness is the birthplace of light. That's where light begins. And we get to bring it up to our own consciousness. And
but it will eat you up somehow for not bringing it up to the light, because consciously, just like the unconscious, forgot the way the statement went, but it will eat you up constantly for not bring it to light. So I guess the part of it is consciously being present to it and not doing anything about it, or consciously being present to it and jump in there and go into that rabbit hole and find why it's keep bothering you.
Yes, it would be so powerful to be able to say, if not to anyone else, to myself, I don't want to look at that yet, because I'm not done being ashamed of myself.
Yeah.
I'm not done feeling guilty. I'm not done feeling angry. I'm not done feeling self-righteous. I want to stay here a little bit longer. And when you can call it, you're like, oh, is Giovanni slapping the air. But listen,
I'm not done being ashamed. I'm not done being self-righteous. I'm not.
That's what I'm saying.
Stay in there for a minute.
If you can say this to yourself, I started the conversation before we went live. I told you guys, I'm resisting the jokes, man, but I know that what you resist persists. So you're gonna keep, hating jokes until you actually embrace it. So go ahead and embrace it. Go ahead and be cheesy. Go ahead and do a little, Halloween joke that Sorrel immediately knew the answer to, so it didn't even land properly. And so when you can face yourself in that way, then you'll understand that not only are there no monsters under the bed, but those triggers are your treasures. Those triggers are your teachers. And the part of you that you think is monstrous is actually a very powerful part of you. The part of you that is monstrous, the part of you that you feel guilty or ashamed about, there's a lot of power there. There's a lot of power in anger and self-righteousness and guilt and shame. It's kind of like cancer, right? Like, as a cancer survivor, I feel that I can say this, that cancer is really just the healing cells of the body turned against themselves. So in the same way, guilt and shame and anger are just our power channels turned against ourselves. So if you can tweak, if you can modulate that power, then you can make it useful and put it in the service of your highest good. And that's the teaching for me of Halloween, that it's like bring the unconscious to the conscious. It's not scary. It's part of who I am. I just haven't integrated it. And I'll take as long as it takes because it's my journey. It's your journey. And you're entitled to take as long as you want. Just like A Course in Miracles says, this is a required course. Only the time you take is voluntary. You can linger in that lesson for as long as you want. Or, like Maxwell says, you can get it all done this lifetime. You know that song? Sorrel, do you know that song? That Maxwell song? So thank you everybody for being here. We're a little bit over. And we want to remind you, of course, of our lovely tenets. Number 1, love always. Number 2, laugh out loud, like kiki, ha ha, belly moving up and down kind of laughter, like one of those. Stress less, eat more plant-based, give of yourself, give your time, your effort, your talents. Sleep at least 7 hours a day, move your body, shake your tail feather. And of course, as always, check yourself before you wreck yourself. We love you. We honor you. Thank you for being here. See you next week.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, family.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.